Hi guys, today I'm going to tell you a story that I think is quite funny. It's also quite long, so if you can't deal with long things then don't watch this video because it might be quite long, as all of my videos are apparently. The problem with this is I think this is really funny. The other person involved doesn't think it's very funny. He is quite embarrassed about it. Let's all talk about it online so everyone can hear about it. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And for those of you that know me, it's the tent peg story and you'll know exactly what I mean. For those of you that don't, and those of you that haven't heard this sort of story before that might know me, yeah, you're in for a bit of a treat. So every 4 years my county runs a big county camp. Everyone goes, like the whole county, so everyone from beavers to cubs to scouts to explorers to network and leaders. They all go, everyone goes, and it's awesome. Really good camp. The second one I went on was about a year and a half ago, and I went on it actually to help out. I was there as staff. I was helping out Oxchef, which is like the name for our county camp team of people that help cook for all the staff. So, Friday night we got there, we cooked dinner, really good day, really fun. There wasn't a lot going on, it was just really chill, and we had the big opening ceremony where everyone dressed up. The way it works, we were one world. Every district had a continent, and then every group within the district had a country. So our country, my group, was Jamaica. So we all dressed up as pirates. That was awesome. I get up really early on Saturday morning to go and cook breakfast. I'd literally been up, it was about 6 o'clock I got up. And from where I was actually camping, which is about here with my group, was about probably 3 fields away from where I was actually working. We made breakfast, we served breakfast, it was all good and fun. We were just clearing up after breakfast, and Tarquin May walks in. Now, if you don't live in my county and if you're not a scouter, you probably don't know who Tarquin May is, but Tarquin May was, at the time, the county commissioner, so he is, like, really high up on county, like, he is, like, the top dog of the county list of people that you want to be nice to. Amongst Tim Kidd and all that, he's right up there. And I didn't know that he knew my name. And he walked in and went, "Oh, Laura, you really should go back to your site." And I said to him, "What do you mean I should go back to my site? I'm quite happy here." I thought he was telling me off for being there, because I'm quite young, really, on the staff team. Like, I'm one of the youngest. There are a few people that are younger than me now, but at the time I was probably the youngest staff member there, so I thought he was sending me up to my site because I'd been naughty. And he's like, "Oh no, your brother's had an accident." And I was like, "Oh no, what's he done now?" Because my little brother, I love him to pieces, but he is the most accident-prone little boy, well, not so little, boy that I've ever met in my entire life. So I was like, oh, I probably should go back. So I didn't even bother taking my apron off. I sort of was wandering through the campsite with my apron still on, and I was wandering through the first field, and I got to the second field, and I saw one of the event ferries. The event ferries are like the people that make the event run, so they do all the generators, all the walkie-talkies, all the electronics, they do the car parking. So I met one of the event fairies, the chief event fairy actually, which his name's Ian, and I went up to him, I was like, "Hi Ian!" And I heard over his radio, I was like, sort of like could hear it in my ear, "The second ambulance is coming now." Oh, and the second fire engine. And I'm like, okay, why are there 2 ambulances and why are there 2 fire engines? Because there's a big blockade of people in the way. So I walked up to the blockade of people and went, "Can I get through please?" And they went, "No, we're not allowed to let you through." And I was like, "Well, why not?" And they said, "Oh, there's been a child that's been injured." I was like, "Yeah, I know, he's my brother." And they're like, "Yeah, but we're waiting for another emergency vehicle." So I just sort of, you shouldn't do this, don't do this unless it's an emergency. You shouldn't walk around people's campsites. But I did, because I was desperate to know what's going on. At this point, I still have no idea what he's done. Like, nobody's told me what's happened. So yeah, I'm just sort of there like, expecting him to have, like, cut his arm or, you know, like, bruised himself or done something, like, really minor. It only took me about 5 minutes to walk around. One of the ambulance members walked straight up to me, and one of them put his arm on my shoulder and grabbed my hand, as it, like, really supportingly and really, like, I don't know how to describe the feeling the touch gave me, but it was almost like, "Don't worry, it's gonna be okay." And he asked me, he went, would you like to see him now, or would you like to wait till he's out? I still have no idea what's going on. Nobody's really told me what's going on, and this ambulance guy was like, do you want to see him now? And at this moment I'm starting to get really panicky, so I was like, yeah, let me see my brother, please let me see my brother. And I walk around the ambulance, and my brother is starfished out on the ground next to the door of a tent. And I'm like, oh my god, he's dying. One of Alex's scout leaders, who also used to be one of my scout leaders, which is why it's weird and why, like, it's just really odd that they were all there and it's just weird. So he was sat in the door with a tent giving my brother gas and air. And they had this huge bolt cutter. Like, I'd never seen this pair of bolt cutters in my entire life. And they were just lying on the side. I'll go on to the story of getting him out after I've told you what he's actually done. And this, children and adults that are idiots, is why you don't play ball games or run around tents. So what had happened was my brother and his friends were playing catch just before they were going to go into their breakfast. So they're playing catch, it's all, you know, fun and games, blah 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 blah. And the ball goes towards one of the tents. And my brother runs after it and falls over and tries to get back up again and realises that he can't. And then he looks to his arm, and in his forearm he's got the hooked end of a tent peg stuck in his arm, and he can't get out of the off of the like ground. And what happened is one of the leaders had gone, oh, it's breakfast time, so all the other kids who hadn't seen what had happened just left him and went to breakfast. Ate the breakfast, blah blah. About 15 minutes later, one of the girls walks over, screams, and all the leaders come running over and realise that my brother's stuck to the ground. So yeah, back to the bolt cutters. So I walk in and they tell him to go and tell me to go and comfort him. So I've got hold of his hand, and me and my brother are not like huggy people, not like brother and sister love. We're not like that at all. So I was really shocked when my brother like reached out and grabbed my hand, like to say it's gonna be alright, bless him. It was awful. And they tried to cut it out with bolt cutters, but all the bolt cutters were doing, and they couldn't get through the tent peg in time, was wiggling the tent peg around in his arm, which was making it more painful. And then they tried a saw, which was also on the first fire engine, but the saw couldn't get through the tent peg. They called the second fire engine because they didn't have the right tool in the first fire engine to deal with the incident. So yeah, they ended up digging him out with a screwdriver, which is hilarious. And obviously, because they didn't know what the hooked end was hooked around, because it could have been his bone, it could have been a tendon, it could have been pretty much anything because of where it was, they couldn't take the tent peg out, so they had to just leave it in his arm. So when they got up and stuck him on the gurney and took him into the ambulance, while this is going on, James, there's a boy in my brother's scout group called James, and James's name is James Alexander. So James's mum had been rang saying, oh, Alex has had a really bad accident, you need to come, your son's, you know, really badly injured. And she's like, my son isn't called Alex. I'm like, he must be, it's his forms, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no, it's not James. She's like, I don't have a son called Alex, my son is called James. So she was rang and she was getting really really worried, and my mum and dad had no idea at this point. They're thinking, yes, we've got rid of the kids for the weekend. And James's mum is like, what is going on? My son is called James. So we got into the ambulance, and because of all the emergency vehicles, because at this point what happened is the site staff had rung an ambulance, and Alex's scout leaders had also rung an ambulance. So there were two different ambulances coming to the same incident. Bearing in mind, when they plan out scout campsites, they only leave sort of like enough room to get just about 2 cars down. They were trying to get these 2 fire engines out and this other ambulance, and it was all a bit chaos. So we were sat in the ambulance. It was stationary for probably about half an hour actually, while they fiddled around with all this sort of stuff. And we're sat in the ambulance, and the lady's got like the forms. So obviously whenever you go on a scout camp, you have to fill in a safety form and blah blah blah. So she's got the safety form and she's reading off all these things, and she says to me, oh, Alex has got asthma, has he got anything else? And I said, well, Alex hasn't got asthma, so I think you've got the wrong form. And she's like, no, I've been told this is the right form. I was like, well, it's not. I was like, can I have a look at it, please? And she was like, oh, I don't think I'm allowed to do that. And I was like, if it's his form, I'm his sister, I should be allowed to do this. So she was like, fine, okay. So I was given this form, and I know as soon as I look at it, that is not my mum's handwriting. I know this isn't Alex's form. And at the top of it, and it says Ollie. And I was like, did you not read the name? She's like, oh, no. And I was like, it says Ollie at the top of the form. I've just told you his name's Alex. So this is twice now they've got my brother confused with someone else. We're just about to leave in the ambulance, and Ben Smith, Ben Smith is another person who's quite high up in county, and he was the group camp organiser person. Like, he organises everything. He's like the grand mastermind of everything that goes on. So he came into the ambulance, and he said to my brother, he says, oh, have you got a necker yet? And my brother went, oh no, I was going to get one today. And Ben goes, oh, don't worry, you can have mine, and gives Alex his necker. Lovely. Really, really sweet. From Tame to Oxford, you know, flashy lights are going, it's all very exciting. We're actually talking to the lady about Doctor Who, and they take us into the children's ward. Because he's got like a tent peg sticking out of his arm, they're not allowed to let him sit in the waiting room because it'll freak other people out. So they took him to the and also we were like the first people there because it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Within like 2 hours, there were probably like 20 kids that had just walked in with some sort of injury, and they were all wearing the one word necker, so we know exactly who they were and where they were from. And then they set up the little, like, they have these weird televisions in children's hospitals that are shaped like big bears' heads. We were taken into the children's ward bit. He was sat down, and the nurse comes along and she goes, oh, I'm really sorry, we're going to have to put a towel over that. And I was like, oh, why not? Why? Is it going to be infected if he, you know, doesn't cover up? So she goes, no, I just can't look at it. So even the nurse is like really grossed out by this. There's like a television screen in the bear's head. It's the creepiest looking thing you've ever seen in your entire life. I'm watching Harry Potter on the giant bear's head, it's all really cool. And both my parents walk in. You know, my mum's not like particularly motherly, like mummy, like, oh, are you okay, my poor darling child? She's not like that at all, but she's like, oh, you're right, Alex, you know, like, what's going on? My dad walks in like Prince Philip, as he always does, like bumbling along, like in his own little way. And I'm expecting my brother to be like, oh, mum, my arm really hurt. That's what a normal child reaction is. Instead, my brother goes, mum, guess what? Ben gave me his necker! Because he thought that was like the best thing in the world. He thought that was really, really exciting. I was sort of like wandering around the ward because to see if there was someone, because I was going to get my dad to drop me back to the campsite, because obviously now my parents were there, I wasn't needed for moral support anymore because my parents were there. So I was looking for someone to take me back to the campsite because my dad was going to take me. So me and dad are just about to leave, like go out the hospital doors, and one of the guys goes, oh, you're the girl that serves the food at One World, aren't you? I was like, yeah, that's me. And he was like, oh, we're about to go back to the site if you wanted a lift. And I was like, yeah, cool. So they gave me a lift back to the site. I was really, really lucky actually, because you could see like where the tent peg had settled, it was in between his tendon and his bone. So if it had been a millimetre either side, he'd either got straight into his bone or straight into his tendon. So he was really, really, really lucky with that. And now all he has is like a smiley shaped scar, like this shaped scar, like on his forearm. In fact, I might ask him to come and show you. Alex, come here. Show them your scar.
Oh, so
no, you have to come in and show them your scar.
Both.
Yeah, so he's got like this smiley shaped scar here. I think you need to go a bit closer.
Okay.
This smiley shaped scar here from One World. You're welcome. Sorry, he's a bit of a grumpy teenager at the moment, so that's probably why you're not going to get a lot out of him.